Hey, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast with Bob from Oceanside, California, and our host hotel, the beautiful Mission Pacific Hotel. My name is Bob Babbitt, and we're brought to you by MasterSpas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot Sports Original Triathlon Brand, Premium Plus Sports, and our Challenge Athletes Foundation, our first guest of the day. Fittingly, 5-time Paralympian, 5-time Paralympic medalist, 2 golds, 2 silvers, and a bronze, and the first double above knee amputee to finish an Ironman at Ironman Arizona back in 2009, Mr. Rudy Garcia-Tolson. Rudy, how the hell you doing?
I'm doing great, Babbitt. Good to see you this morning.
Nice view, huh?
Not too shabby.
Now, you are racing, relaying this weekend?
I am. I'm doing the swim, so the easy part.
Yes.
I'm doing the swim, and then we have a Ironman Foundation, Challenge Athletes Foundation surf clinic on Sunday. So I'm very excited about that. We have over 20 Challenge athletes coming and trying out surfing, and it should be a fun day.
And we've got 20 different Challenge athletes participating in some way, shape, or form in the triathlon, either relay or doing the whole thing.
It's Oceanside 70.3, and this is the Challenge Athletes Foundation's home turf. So, of course, we're going to have a good showing. We have a lot of Operation Rebound athletes out there. So kudos to Nico and what he does with Operation Rebound.
Exactly.
And it should be an amazing weekend, as always.
So for you, really, triathlon was one of your first sports. When you first had your legs amputated and you met this wonderful man named Terry Martin from Power Bar, he took you to some of these short pool triathlons where he would do the run and the bike and you would jump in and do the swim, and you were just a little guy without legs.
Yeah.
But that gave you a feel for the sport, but also a feel for, oh my God, look at all these people cheering for me.
Yeah, exactly. This was back in the late 90s where triathlon, I think, was kind of in the golden era. Mm-hmm. And my first race was in San Bernardino with Mr. Terry, where he did the bike and run and I did the swim. And, new to the whole triathlon sport, I was very taken away by how athletic a lot of the people were and how serious they were. It just gravitated towards me doing the run and swim. And then eventually, when I was 10 years old, I did my first sprint triathlon in Benelli Park.
Right.
With Mr. Terry there. I think Sean Astin was there. I had a very good showing. And that really led me on the path to always have that little goal in the mind of doing an Ironman. And, I grew up watching Ironman on TV.
Yes, you did.
And
meeting a lot of those Ironman guys at the San Diego Triathlon Challenge.
Absolutely. Scott Tinley.
Peter Reed was there, Mark
Dave
Allen,
Scott.
Dave Scott, all those guys.
Yeah, so I grew up with all those guys. And my most vivid memory is watching those guys on TV running in their Speedos with the tri-singlet on. And that was like the old school triathlete kind of outfit. And that's kind of been burned in my mind since a kid. So
what's fascinating is back then, when you first got into this, a lot of parents who had children with challenges would sort of hide them away. They weren't out showcased with the spotlight on. You were really one of the first guys where you were out there, you're missing your legs, and rather than, oh my God, this poor kid's missing his legs, I miss my legs, but that's the beginning of the conversation. That doesn't limit my athletic ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I stepped into the role of being an ambassador for the Challenge Athletes Foundation by the time I was 9 years old. When I was 8 years old, my mom was able to reach out to Power Bar and get a sponsorship. And so by the time I was 10 years old, I've had a few sponsors, and I was already paying the bills in my house. And so it really turned into this role of me going to these races and really enjoying being at the races and meeting everybody, and having Challenge athletes at triathlon was still new.
Very new.
I know Jim McLaren was around doing triathlons around the same time, but I never got to see him when he was racing. But for me, being at Benelli Park and all the local triathlons in the area, it just felt everybody was so supportive, and it just made me want to come back and do more. And I'd be down here in San Diego almost every weekend doing something with CAF. So
the interesting part to me is when you talk to pro triathletes or pro runners, you say, okay, when you were 10, 11 years old, were you the main support of your family? And it's like, wait, what? Yeah. You were. I mean, you basically, you bought the house that your family moved into when you were what, 11?
About 12 years old. Yeah, paid off the paid off the trailer that we currently lived in at the moment,
Yes.
and then shortly after I was able to put a down payment to get my mom a house, and so it turned into this situation where I was the main breadwinner of the house, and
Right.
I didn't really know that the financial side of it. I just knew that I was going to races and doing a lot of TV stuff, and I was just doing what I loved, and the TV stuff it never really fazed me. I was never super excited to do interviews. I just knew that was part of the role,
Part of the
part
game.
of the gig, and you gotta do the interviews and all that good stuff. But for me as a kid, I was really just open-eyed with the amount of support CAF given me, and then a little bit down the road, introducing me to other challenge athletes.
Right.
The first other guy I ever met who looked like me was Roderick Sewell, and to be able to meet Roderick here in San Diego, and then to be lifelong friends, and just to create that connection, and also to reach out to these families who are in the same situation.
Right.
And my mom was a great mentor to Roderick's mom, and that just snowballed to now there's hundreds of kids at our San Diego Triathlon Challenge, and it's the new norm. We're seeing kids nowadays at the age of 3-4 years old in racing chairs, in running legs, and it's just that's what it is now. And we've come a long way, and we still have a long way to go. So
Well, you were sort of the Pied Piper of all of that. When you went to your first Paralympic Games in 2004 in Athens, when you were 16 years old, you win a gold medal, and it was probably earlier than you thought that was going to happen. But by the time then you go to Beijing, and you go to London, and you go to Rio, and during those years, when you've got Olympic sponsor, when you're a Paralympic athlete, there's McDonald's, there's some major sponsors, British Petroleum. But then in between, I think it's really difficult, because for that year leading into the games and maybe a few months afterwards, you're making fairly good money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then it's Death Valley. Then there's nothing.
Yeah, it's a 4-year cycle. Olympians and Paralympians, we're all in the boat of, the lucky ones are able to get a few sponsors and get that financial support, because, traveling around the country and around the world, we do get support from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, but it's nothing to, say put away and start saving money for the future. And so a lot of us in the Olympic and Paralympic world, we live on a 4-year cycle, and usually a year before the games is when sponsorships are now interested in the Olympics and Paralympics, and they support. But yeah, those off years, it's for me, I'm blessed. I always had triathlon, and triathlon was something that always kept me moving, kept me in shape, and it was something that I loved to do, even though doing an Ironman 16 hours is a very long day. I can't say I love doing that, but I'm happy I checked it off the bucket list. But now we're seeing a huge change in Paralympic athletes becoming household names, and really carrying sponsors throughout the 4 years. And there's just a whole lot more opportunities out there, and we're starting to see it in our face on TV and movies and commercials. You're starting to see a lot of the representation of disabled people and challenge athletes has come a long way.
Well, inclusion and diversity have become really important, right? Where companies never would have thought to put an amputee or a wheelchair-bound person or a visually impaired person in a ad. Now it's, if you see an ad without somebody,
something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Yeah,
right? You're missing something.
Back in the day, I remember back in 2004, 2003. This was in Athens, 2004 Paralympics. The main highlight athlete was Marlon Shirley, a single leg amputee sprinter, and he was able to get Visa and Coca-Cola and a few other sponsors. But he really opened the door for all of us other Paralympians. But really, the main thing that I heard the most was, Paralympic athletes are not marketable. And no one can relate to a guy in a wheelchair. No one can relate to a guy missing legs. And sure enough, about 20 years later, we see it everywhere.
Well, because the average person watching at home, you see 20 people and one person's missing a leg and one person wheelchair. Your eyes drawn to that. And
Absolutely.
You go, what's going on here? Tell me that backstory.
Well, I think the majority of us are average people. We have good days and bad days, and I think when you take a challenge athlete, who's been through a lot and still is able to put a smile on and race and be at the highest level, that's motivation. And when you're able to motivate somebody, and I hate to say it, but if you're able to inspire somebody, then that's an awesome thing, and the world needs more of that.
It's funny because I think for a while there, people were like, don't use that word inspire. I don't want someone coming up to me at the grocery store and saying, Rudy, you inspire me because I'm shopping, right?
Well, I get it every day. I'm
Of course.
out every single day. Every single day I get approached by a little kid, an adult, people who mean well.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, if me going to the store to get a bag of hot Cheetos is going to inspire somebody, then so be it. Who am I to say what's inspirational or not, So,
Yes.
I understand that the whole word inspiration has probably been used a lot, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there are a lot of inspirational challenge athletes out there who are kicking ass and taking names.
So when you started with us, you were 7, 8 years old. You were our first kid involved with CAF, and we took a photo. Let's get all the kids together. It was you, right? It wasn't a lot of kids there. And now there's hundreds of them. And now you're in a position where you're on the other side of the street. Right. You are working at CAF, right? 34 years old, working for CAF. You're the guy who helps discover that next challenged athlete.
Well, it's a amazing role that I'm able to step into, and just being back in San Diego over the last year, being really an employee of CAF now. When I was younger, my drive and my motivation was to win medals and be the best in my sport, in my events, and that's what I thought was the coolest thing ever. And now that I've had a 20-year career in swimming, and the medals are cool, the records are awesome, traveling the world has been probably the best part, and making those connections with lifelong friends. But for me, there's nothing better than being able to meet a young challenge athlete who looks like me, and to be able to guide him on his journey, whether he wants to do sports, whether he goes in academics, whatever it is. To be able to be in this position is it's amazing. It's amazing.
When you've been putting on the WCMX, the wheelchair skateboarding clinics up in LA, and we're partnered with LA 2028 to do that. You're a longtime skateboarder as a kid. Who inspires you? You've met some kids who you probably never met before, and are seeing things that have to move you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. These, we put on a lot of clinics in the Southern California region, and most recently we did some WCMX clinics up in LA in partnership with the city of LA. And, we have had kids come into the clinic for the first time, and trying a sport like skateboarding is, not a traditional sport. And, when I used to tell people I skateboard, they look at me and they think, well, you're missing your legs. How is that possible? But the beauty of skateboarding is that it can be done any way. And the way I do it is I sit on the board. Other people do it in a wheelchair that's specially designed for shock absorbers to jump off, stairs.
Go in the pools.
It's amazing what they do, doing backflips, and just to be a part of that, and to expose these sports to kids who have physical limitations and have always been told that it's not possible, and then to go out there and show them what's possible. That to me is an amazing role. And then it's just to watch these kids get out there and smile and have a good day and be just one of the skaters. That's motivation for me. That's what I want to see more of.
Early on, when you really didn't have your category, right, for swimming, because to get your category put into the Paralympic Games, you need to have more people like you who are double above knee amputees to get a category classification going. And the reality was you had to find people around the world in other countries to get other countries involved in order to get in. But the downside of that is you had to find people who could kick your butt.
Exactly. One of the sports that I initially started as a young kid was track and field.
Right.
I was doing running, and I was pretty good at it at the very beginning in 2000, 2001. And I remember in 2000 and maybe in 1999, I was down at the Chula Vista Training Center. We had a race, International Challenge, and I ended up winning the 5,000 or something. And they told me, oh, you're going to be a Paralympian, you're going to the Paralympics. And then half an hour later, they came and told me, well, it's not going to happen because they don't have your category in the Paralympics. And so it started to think about, well, what can we do to get this category into the Paralympics? And, essentially I needed to find, 6 double amputees across 10 nations across the world. And at the time, double amputees running was not very common.
Nobody did it.
And so that's kind of my hopes and dreams of being a track and field Paralympian kind of shattered back then because it just wasn't enough athletes. And then, the fast forward to 2012, I was able to make the track and field team, and we had a whole two heats of double amputees out there, and so that just shows that the work that Challenge Athletes does, and the work of just being a Paralympian and paying it forward to the next generation, it's paying off, and we're seeing it in action now. So,
what are you proudest of? When you talk about your career, we talk about Athens when you're 16, but you were an athlete going back to when you were 7, 8 years old. Yeah. So you, at the age of 34, you've had over a 25-year career.
Not too bad.
As an athlete.
Not too bad. 20 years as a Paralympic swimmer. I went to my first Worlds in 2002. Just finished in 2022. So I'm pretty proud of that. I feel good about that. I had a very good career. I was able to medal at 4 of my Paralympic games, able to improve my times throughout my 20-year career. So, just improving that to me is definitely up there. But, just being involved with the Challenge Athletes Foundation and seeing the growth. We're having our 30th anniversary with the San Diego Triathlon Challenge this year, and the number of new families that come out, and the number of new grantees that we see, that it's just growing to this amazing foundation, and that I can't wait for the next 30 years. So being involved with CAF is definitely the most my most favorite moment. So
one of my favorite moments is when you went to 2009 Ironman World Championship. Didn't finish, missed the bike cutoff time by 15 minutes, something like that. We're not a very happy camper, but 6 weeks later, went to Ironman Arizona, finished the race, passed 140 people during the marathon, got to eat chicken soup, got massaged during a run. I know you were not a happy camper, but you came across that finish line. But the cool part to me was 10 years later, you went and were supporting Roderick Sewell, another double above knee amputee, who was basically out there to do what you weren't able to do, which is become the first double above knee amputee to finish the Ironman World Championship. Now, a lot of people would be, do I really want this kid to do something I couldn't do? But that was never part of your mindset. It was like, absolutely, I want this kid to accomplish what I couldn't.
Well, Roderick came from a very rough background, and for him to get to the pinnacle of triathlon and to be on that starting line, and then, for me to just selfishly have a little part in that, to help support him, to carry his legs, to make sure he's got enough water. I mean, that was, I had an awesome day, and, I know being on the course is definitely a much more challenging day, but for me to be a part of Roderick's journey to get to that Kona finish line was that's what CAF is all about. That's what we're all about. We're all about making sure that the next generation, the people around us are succeeding and getting to that finish line, and we witnessed it that day. So it was a very close getting down to that 17-hour cutoff time, but he made it before midnight, and we couldn't be prouder. So
I love it. Rudy, as always, thank you for everything you've brought to CAF, your enthusiasm, your excitement for discovering new kids, and seeing somebody's journey before they see it. That's, to me, one of the best part about CAF, when you can identify that this kid's going to be great before they know they're going to be great. That, to me, is the best. It's
a very amazing role to be in. I'm very blessed, and I can't wait for the next 30.
Rudy Garcia-Tolson has been our kickoff guest here at Ironman 70.3 Breakfast with Bob here in beautiful Oceanside. Again, our host hotel, the beautiful Mission Pacific Hotel. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Catch the rest of our interviews. Thanks so much. We'll catch you in a little bit. Bye.